Hello and welcome on another workshop in ScandiPWA series. Today we will talk about installing ScandiPWA on existing Magento instance. We will talk about the requirements. I will guide you through the installation, and then we will take a look at the result. So let's begin with defining the requirements. So the first thing you will need is the latest supported Magento instance. So we support currently, at the moment of this video recording, latest supported version of Magento is 2.3.3. So we will need a Magento 2.3.3 instance. Notice this one, you need to ask us or check the README for the latest supported version. Next thing you will need is the Redis server. So you need a Redis, and more specifically, you will need a Redis CLI. But I will not specify those binaries, so we'll need a Redis, yes. We'll also need Varnish, and we will also need the node. And there is a specific requirement for the node. It should be 10 or higher. So we have Magento 2.3, we should have Redis, Varnish, and Node. Well, let's make sure what we have on our computer fits this requirement. So let me open the instance up. So here we go. Boom. We are now trying to connect to our instance using the SSH command. So I'm connecting to our instance. Currently it's m2scandipwa.ndvp.com. I'm logging into it, and looks like I successfully done it. Here on this instance, I must have the sudo. So what I'm doing is I'm writing sudo su, so as a root. So now I'm executing as the root user. And what I need to do now is to check for Redis, Varnish, Node, and Magento version. So for Magento version, it's simple. Let's go to admin, and from the admin, we can find out that yes, the Magento version is 2.3.3. So we can check our requirements section. Now let's check for the Redis. Well, the Redis could be checked using following command. So Redis CLI -v. We can see that it gets us some output. So we can get back and circle out the Redis. We have it installed. Now let's check out the node. Well, once again, we have it installed. And finally, let's see the Varnish. And the Varnish could be seen by using Varnish d big -v. And you can see that Varnish is also here. So it looks like we have all of our dependencies installed. So let's proceed with the installation. The first thing we need to do is we need to install the ScandiPWA installer using the composer. So let's get into the root of our server. So getting into it, and here we need to run following command. We need to run the command from the repository ScandiPWA installer. Here we can get the command composer requires ScandiPWA installer. Well, let's execute it and see what will happen. So as we see, it's now downloading and installing it. After the composer will require this package, I will get back to you. So let's get to the root here, and this can be done by going to var www public. In my case, in your case, this could be var www.html or whatever site inside. So var www public, we got inside to our server. Here what we can do is we can run the composer require and then ScandiPWA/installer. So while it will install it, let's go and check the repository. It can be found here. We need to go to the GitHub ScandiPWA/installer. Yes, and here we'll find the useful commands. Basically, the composer require, ScandiPWA installer, and then the command to set up a theme. Very good. So let's wait until the composer installs our dependencies, and when it will, I will get back to you. Also, while waiting for Composer to install, we can split our terminal vertically. Once again, get to our instance, get to our instance, and from there we can start to retrieve a necessary information that we will need to configure the persisted query package. So once we're in, once again going back to the root user, and from here we can start running Redis CLI info, and now we should grab the port. Well, it looks like the port for our Redis setup is 6379. So let's remember this port here. So our Redis port is 6379. Okay, very good. Very good. Now switching back, let's go to our GitHub, and here let's open another repository which is called Persisted. Let's go to ScandiPWA itself. So let's open the GitHub of ScandiPWA, and here let's search for Persisted Query, this package. Very interesting. So here we need to make sure that we have the Redis host. In our case, Redis host will be localhost because we are installing on the local machine. So once again, going back, the Redis port is like this. The host in our case will be the 127.0.0.1, or you can use localhost. Additionally, what we need is the database, and the database is an interesting thing because in Redis you can select any. So let's make sure we can select the fifth database, for example. So Redis CLI, let's get inside and let's write select 5. Well, it looks like we can get into fifth database. Let's exit. Seems like it's working pretty neat. So let's keep the default database 5. So DB for our case will be 5. Very good. And now what else we need is the persisted query scheme. We can see it here. So the persisted query schema, and you know that by default it's TCP. So let's write here that the schema in our case is TCP, and also the PQ password. We don't have it because the Redis CLI is available without the password. Very good. So that's pretty much the configuration we need for persisted query. Very good. And we might also want to configure Magento to use our Varnish. So Varnish should be configured in Magento. In order to do it, we can get back to our computer and make sure that the system configuration has a Varnish as the cache driver. Now we need to go to Stores, Configuration, and here we need to scroll way bottom, open Advanced System, and here the full page cache. You should select Varnish, and the Varnish should be configured. Very good. So now let's configure the persisted query. So let's open this up and let's run following command. And as we can see, the composer has finished installation successfully. Well, let's clear this up and let's run bin Magento config set. So the first argument will be the PQ host. So the PQ host in our case is 127.0.0.1. Next, the PQ port. In our case, as we remember, we just wrote it on the desk. It was 6379. Then additionally, we need the PQ schema, which was TCP. So this is TCP. Then what we also need is the PQ database, and the PQ database should be 5. So let's set it like this. Oh well. Let's give it a little bit of permissions. I'm sorry. So I should do like this. Now I should execute the same command here. Oh my god, so many files. Let me exit. Let me select the previous command we entered. Let's copy it down. I forgot I should be a super user. Now I can execute the command. Well, looks like we saved the configuration for persisted query. Now let's clear it and let's Magento setup upgrade, because we have just, bin Magento setup upgrade, because we have just installed the composer. So let's see, it should now update the modules, and after it updates the modules, we should be ready to run the command from installer to bootstrap a theme. So now what should we do is we should decide on a theme name. So I encourage you to use the default one, which is ScandiWeb, I believe, PWA. So if I run this, then I should approve it. And now we should go to the application design frontend ScandiPWA, and here we should run first command, which will be the npm CI. So now we're building a theme, not building but installing the dependencies to later build a theme. So right when it will be installed, we'll need to run the npm run build, and the npm run build will compile a Magento theme. And at that point, Magento should recognize a theme, and we could switch to it in the design configuration in the admin. So looks like the installation has been completed. Let's now npm run build. So the npm run build is now running, and while it is running, let's get to the Magento content, I believe, configuration, content design configuration, and here we will be switching a theme. So let's go here. Looks like it's still building. It's okay. We will set a theme to our store view. So while the Magento is loading here, let's go to edit our default store view, and we will need to select the theme. In a moment you can see that ScandiPWA theme is available here. Very interesting. Let's wait until it compiles finally, and right after it compiled, let's try this out. So as you may see, the theme has been compiled. Now we can thankfully go to our default store view and switch a theme. So now let's save this, and let's see what will happen on the front end. So if we'll now refresh it, well, looks like the ScandiPWA theme starts to appear. And in the network, we should see the request starting to be sent to the GraphQL. And let's wait until the cache for GraphQL is generated, and let's see if the requests start to respond successfully. Well, we can see that we immediately got some issues related to the menu, but the main one, let's compare the cart request. Well, the cart request has successfully responded, and those guys as well. Well, very good. So we can find some blocks by ID. Well, this is easily fixable. So let's go to our Magento theme and let's create our forest page and CMS block. So we can see that homepage is already created. That's amazing. Let's go to blocks and create a first block if it's not already created. Well, seems like no. Let's create a first block. So we will call it the test block. We will give it some identifier. Inside we'll write, let's hide the editor. Let's do some simple work. So that's it. Very good. And let's also go to ScandiWeb menu manager, and let's create our first menu for the general test. Well, it could be any test menu. Then here it could be test menu as well, enabled, and all store views. Amazing. Oh, I shouldn't press save, but now assigned menu items. Let's add an item. Let's call it a root. Let's call it a root item. So it should lead somewhere. And yeah, that's a root item. Very good. Now let's add some more for a quick measure. So root item, and then what can we do here? Let's add testing. So testing will lead us to / whatever, just for test. Let's save it. And now we should see some difference happening here. Well, we're still seeing the error for header and footer. Potentially the varnish is not configured perfectly. Let's try to ban the varnish caches. So we can do it by using varnish admin ban request.url, where it is like this, but additionally we need to provide the name. This is only for me, that's not specific to your instance. Well, looks like it's done. Well, why the request is sent so fast? Let's debug it for a little brief moment. Oh, the CMS page content has appeared. Oh, very good. So maybe this was some service worker cache instead. Very good. So now we can see that there is still a menu issue. So how to resolve it? Well, let's go to store configuration, and here let's open up the ScandiPWA and go to content customization. So in the content customization, we can check the menu which we would like to display and the promotion CMS block. But for promotion CMS block, let's for now skip it. And for that's pretty much it. Everything else, I'm kind of okay with it. Possibly there will be multiple CMS blocks which will not work. So let's just select our test block for everyone, so we can just make sure it does respond correctly. Yep. Amazing. So we have selected all of this. Now here, let's now skip it. Well, looks like we also need to set the content configuration, and here we will need to set the homepage, I believe. So the homepage is set in the configuration. So it's search where it is, the default pages. Default pages, where it is. Okay, that's fine. Let's once again ban the varnish cache. Very good. Let's see. Well, the error with menu has disappeared, and we can see now our hello text has appeared here, and we see the menu, and that's pretty much working. So let's create my first account. Let's choose some email and password. Let's see if it's working. Well, looks like this part also doesn't work. So the reason could be anything at this point, because the configuration of Magento is not default. So I'm writing again Alfred Scankins, and we'll try a different password. So as we can see, there is an issue here, and we kind of don't know which exactly it is, so it requires some additional debugging. But overall, we can see that the page and the ScandiPWA has been installed. It is much easier to achieve if you're using a demo database setup, or if you're using the module of ours, which allows you to get some data related to which allows you to get some sample data. But yeah, this is how you set up your ScandiPWA store on existing Magento instance. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Well, user is definitely not creating, so this one already exists. Very funny. So it looks like it's creating, but the issue is that it for some reason cannot log me in properly. Well, we have seen that now it's logged me in. Very interesting behavior. Looks like it's not really. Yeah, the customer is not authorized. Well, it looks like we have issues with authorization, and oh yes, exactly. So I tailed the exception log, and what we can see here is we are unable to send the email. So this could mean that the issue with our users is related to the Magento configuration and not our setup itself. So you can, if you have configured your mail sending script correctly, it should work. But in our case, on this specific server, there is an issue with the mail sending. And here's how you debug it. Well, if you see the error here, notification popping up, well, you, as you have seen, can open the notification tab, and here you can watch the request failing. And the request which will fail will contain the error part. So you can open this up, and if it doesn't contain any specific information, like only category, then you should search it in your exception logs. So you can tail the exception log, and if you will tail this exception log, you will notice that your exception will most probably be contained here. So this is a way to debug the issues which you face.